Glenn again with Falcon Quest Birds of Prey. Welcome to part 2 of lure training your bird. This is some basic fundamentals. There's many ways to train these birds. There's many techniques that different people use. This is just gives a little bit of some pointers, some thoughts to think about. Others of you that are involved with falconry, you may have a completely different style, a completely different technique. That's perfectly fine. That's the beauty of falconry, is that there's many different ways to get the birds to do what we would like them to have them to do for us. Enjoy the video, and if you see something here that you like, hit the like button, and please remember to subscribe. But today what I want to do is I want to work my falcon a little bit more with lure training. I want to get the bird to fly without being on a creance and start responding to me and the lure. But before I take her off or take him off the creance, I want to make sure that the weight is right and his response is right. This is the first time he is flying free since he went down for the molt, and he's still not quite done molting, but I brought his weight down just enough where I believe he's going to be responsive today. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right response before I cut him off the creance. Remember, for those of you that don't know, the creance is the long line that attaches the bird to a weight. This way we can't lose our birds. The other thing before you go for your first free flight is you want to put a bell, at least one bell. A lot of people will use 2 bells of 2 different frequencies on the legs. You can hear them, you can respond to them. Of course, there's telemetry we can use. Lots of times I use telemetry. With this particular bird here, I'm not using telemetry, but telemetry is a good way to go, especially with our larger falcons that really get out and go. I know the history behind this falcon. This falcon doesn't get up very high in pitch, and it doesn't range very far. This is a very tight flying falcon, and that's why I like this falcon to use in my programs, because the space that I have to give my flights in is rather small. So this falcon works perfect for me. For you, you may have other purposes. I also don't hunt with this particular falcon. This falcon was a past abatement bird and was used for abatement purposes. And but again, I just want to make sure that we have everything in line before I cut this bird free. You want to make sure. Another thing that I like to do is I always preload my lure with a treat. I don't wait until the bird's up in the air and say, oh wow, I didn't put anything on my lure. Put your treat. This little system here works really good. And then once you get your piece of meat in there, you tighten this down, and then that holds your meat in place. And I preload my lure. That way, when the bird takes off and it does a few flybys, when I'm ready to present that lure, that the lure's ready to go. But here's the problem I have today. You know, I'm kind of rusty. I haven't been out flying my birds out in the woods for a while, out in the wilds for a while. Well, guess who forgot to bring the bells? Well, it wasn't Sterling, it was me. So again, falconer error, usually that is the case. I have the tidbit of food there. Of course, I'm dealing with a small falcon, so I'm not putting a whole lot of meat on there. We had immediate response. As soon as the lure is presented, he came down, hit the lure pretty hard, fair amount of enthusiasm. So I think we're gonna be good to fly today. bird's really out of shape. He's been molting. He's been sitting in the mews. So I gotta build his strength up. I can't let him have too many passes before I present to him the lure. But for the first day in a long time flying, free, success. The bird came to the lure. I better go get the bird before it decides to do something else. Okay, so here we are with the Harris hawk, and we're gonna do some first free flight with the Harris hawk, because the first thing I want to do is make sure that the bird is going to respond to me. I'm going to have the bird come to the fist. Remember, this is a Harris hawk. We're going to be working this a little bit differently than you would a falcon. In this type of an environment to work with the bird, because it's just a little bit more open, a little bit easier to see what's going on, especially since I forgot to bring my bells today. So again, I'm not flying my bird with bell, but I think we're going to be okay. We'll just see how she responds. So I'll get to see how she responds to me on the creance. I'll hood her back up. I'll take off the creance. She already came. What are you doing, girl? As they say, in falconry, if it can go wrong, it probably will. Okay, she's doing pretty good. I think we'll cut the creance off of her and let her fly free. Many times what I do is when I take the creance off, I don't change a thing. She already flew to me with the creance on, got a tidbit of food. I didn't change anything. This is a good point to keep in mind. So when you use your bird for the first time off free flight, don't change anything. More than likely, the bird won't even know it's free for a while. And that's a good thing. Let it graduate into that feeling of, oh, I have more space, I have more distance, and there's nothing attached to my feet, other than the flight jesses, of course. So that's one of the tricks I do, is I just don't change anything. So I'm gonna put her right back up on this perch and pretend like she's still on the creance, and she may not know the difference. Okay, she flew way up in this other tree. That's okay, I'm gonna call her down to me. Okay, now she flew in the tree on top of me. That's okay, I'm gonna keep calling her to me. Okay, she's not wanting to come to the fist. So now I'm pulling out the lure. Let's see if I can have her come down to the lure. She's up in this tree up here behind me. Boom! Hammers the lure. Okay, let me explain a few things to you. She came down to the lure really nice. She wasn't coming to my gloved hand very well with the tidbit, but she did come to the lure nicely. But the transfer from the lure to me is still a little rough. I don't like it that well. So I picked her up basically. She's still holding on to her lure. I have some meat, you know, in between the fingers on my glove that she's working on. She's still hanging on to the lure, and I have a hold of her jesses right now, her flight jesses. She's acting a little squirrely, and I'm a little nervous. I don't have bells on her, or even telemetry right here today. So I'm going to call it a day. She flew up to a couple trees. She flew around. She knew she was free. She came down towards the glove. She never landed on the glove, but when I presented the lure, she came in very good. Hit the lure. Got to work on my transfer a little bit, but for her first free flight, I think she did relatively well. And I rewarded her with a decent amount of food on the fist. She's still not letting go of the lure, which I'm okay with that. I have my bird in hand. That's the most important thing right now. Is I had a clean transfer. I picked up the bird. There wasn't no baiting. She just dropped the lure, which is perfect. She's sitting on my glove. I have her jesses properly placed in my glove. I have a good handle on them. I'm reaching down for the hood. And as soon as I get the hood on this bird, I'll start breathing a little bit easier. And this is what it's like the very first time you let a bird fly free. Is you get a little bit worrisome at time to time. I have her hood on and everything's under control. I have the jesses in my hand where they belong, the proper length. I always like my jesses. I had someone ask on one of my videos, they sent me a comment and was asking how long to have the jesses. Well, you have to have them long enough so when you have the jesses in your glove, like this bird is, you know, I can reach down here and I can, you know, and I can do what I need to do. But yet you don't want them too long where they start wrapping around things. But I do like them to extend beyond the bottom of my glove, approximately 2 to 3 inches. That's what it works good for me. I can work with the ends and get the ends in and get a good grip in my glove, and everything seems to work pretty good. So in review, let's talk about what happened. I took the Harris hawk. This is the very first time. This is not my bird. This is a bird. It wasn't a rescue bird, but she's a 2-year-old bird. This is her second year, her second season. Last year, she didn't do much. She didn't know how to be hooded. You can see the video of her, part of the hood training I did with her. Now you can see I'm out in the field, how important it is to have that hood. So I put the hood on her. She's calmed down. Everything's good. But you can see that video. But this is the first time she's flown free off of a creance. This is her first time in a woodland environment and not, you know, on my property, which of course I have trees on my property, but not so much as this area here. And she got to stretch her wings. She got to fly a little bit. And she came down to the lure very nicely. So I believe we refer to that as being wed to the lure. I believe she knows this lure well. She's wed to this lure. She's going to respond to this lure. So the next time I come out here, I'll have bells on her. I might even throw some telemetry on her. I won't be quite so nervous. But things went well today. And she responded good. And she's looking for more meat, of course. I'm going to bring her back to the mews. I don't live too far from this location, and put her on a perch, feed her up for her ration for the day. But it's a successful day in the field. I flew 2 birds today for the first time off of the creance. I have both birds in my hand.
There's nothing more of a bad day than if you go to the vehicle and your vehicle breaks down and you can't get back home and you have to try to either walk out or call somebody to help.